Hi Katja, who are you?
My name is Katja Perea, and I'm a sociology professor for City University of New York. It's CUNY. My area of focus is television cartoons, specifically trying to find empowered little girls in different television cartoon programs. And through my research, which has been very exciting, I have discovered this new group of people who are called the Bronies, so a combination of the word brother with ponies, and it's the adult male fans of the new My Little Pony cartoon. It's My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And so when I first heard about them, I was like, who are these guys that love this cartoon of My Little Ponies? And I went to their convention, and they were just normal, regular guys that were big fans of a good cartoon and didn't mind that it was a cartoon that was specifically for little girls. So I started asking them questions like, how do you feel about the fact that you like these little girl cartoons? And it was so nice to hear men, mostly from the age of like 15 to 35, say like, oh, this is, it's just a really good cartoon and they have wonderful characters and I can relate to them. So this idea of like, hey, cartoons are able to be used to change the transformation of what we consider gender to be fixed at. They're not embarrassed to be associated with things that are only for little girls. So hopefully it's a sign that our society is progressing and growing to where even a popular culture product can change the notions of this gender binary.
So actually you've seen that the market is a tool for changing the role.
Yes, it's quite surprising. Who knew that we all do so much work outside of the market because the market causes so much stress in advancements, social advancements. But then there's also this possibility. If you're very creative and you have, I suppose, the luck of being picked up by one of the production companies, to be able to make a product that's actually making a difference, and this cartoon is fascinating. And it has started a movement of new cartoons that are also doing this, and there's more fans for it, like this one that just started called Shizao. It's a boy who becomes a superhero and dresses like a woman. He's a superhero in drag. So I think that that's all part of this new movement that is sort of starting to be created.
So what do you see when it comes to gender roles the last 20 years? Or actually you started to watch the cartoons from the 30s, but what have you seen during these years?
There was no movement at all in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and in the 80s with the idea of toy-based cartoons like the original My Little Pony, Rainbow Bright, Care Bears, He-Man, the Smurfs. They were all it was capitalism that was driving the creation of a girls' market. But then all that got cut off until the reintroduction of cartoons with like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. And that has begun again, this idea of like, hey, let's start making products for everyone to be able to watch. And the idea of that little girls are people and should be included as protagonists, not just as the sidekick or the secondary character, but actually as a main character, shouldn't be a novel idea. But it was, because it wasn't being done. So here it is being done, and the idea of the industry always was that a girl will watch a boy's cartoon, but a boy will not watch a girl's cartoons. But that's not true. And here's the evidence, the very physical evidence of it. So it's very exciting in that sense.
So, I mean, you're queer and you live in New York. What kind of movements are happening here right now?
Well, this Saturday is the Mermaid Parade. That's very exciting. And I wouldn't exactly say that that's a queer movement, but it's so artistic, and so it incorporates a lot of like queer identity to it. But as far as the movement goes, I think that the queer movement in New York City is very politically conscious. We have really good parties because we like to dance. We have art movements too. So we sort of do this incorporation of social activism. We were involved with Occupy Wall Street. We protest. We are all involved in also like NGOs and community organizing, but not exactly within the system, because queer identity tries to dissolve so many of the notions of like gender notions, sexuality notions, capitalist notions, and actively work against them. And collectively as a community, that makes you a creative person in a sense, because you're this deviant status, so to speak, makes you think outside of the norm. And so it's a artistic, musical, political movement is what it is.
And when you look at the next generation, for example, your students, are they aware?
It's fascinating, really. I talk to them all the time, the ones that are open. And it's like, oh, do you get harassment? And they're like, no. I have two students that are transsexual, and I was like, I'm afraid for them that someone's going to give them a hard time, and they're like friends with everybody. Hey, what's up? And I was like, in high school no one gave you a hard time? They're like, no. And I was like, oh, that's good. That means all the work is paying off. You know, these kids are growing up and feeling comfortable. I know that that's not true for everyone everywhere, but I feel really proud of them, that their peers are sort of really supporting them and making them feel comfortable. So it's not just that the queer students are feeling more confident to come out, but that also allies are feeling confident to support and be strong for everyone.
But do you think the next generation will organize in different ways than you've been doing, or?
Well, always, right? The sign of the times is that the ways we organize always has to change. Our community is developing. Besides, 15 years ago, we didn't really have Facebook or the internet. I mean, that is a massive change in how it is that we need to rethink in our social identity, how it is that we organize around it. So yes, definitely, the newer generation has anything to teach us, really. Like, this is how we are going to change the way that we organize and move and expand.
Because I think a lot of NGOs and organizations feels that that's a kind of a threat, but you say they should really embrace.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always see, like, especially at the university, it's always the older professors who are like, turn off your cell phone, you know, and I was like, I know that a lot of my students take notes on their cell phone, or they have to do 3 things at once, and it's like, okay, this is where we are right now, you know, and sure, maybe it's affecting their grammar where they're not writing out a full sentence, but they're still having their ideas. So it's like, okay, what are we becoming now? What are we turning into? Let's work with who it is that we are so that we can advance in that sense. Absolutely, absolutely. Look at these new ways of organizing because they're working. They really are effective.
Thank you so much, Katja, for this interview.